Corso and Catone.
I think well, listen, Mark, listen, hold on. When I say, would you have caffeine today?
What the hell is that up to then?
Presented by Special Sauce Podcast, Studio 42 Design, and Corso Law Group. Now for the real deal New England feel, Corso and Catone.
Welcome into Corso and Catone. I'm joined by the legendary Mark Catone sitting to my left over here. And I am your host, Corso. I had a little
Where
work
is
done.
he, Joe?
Got my haircut. I don't know. You know, I feel like he's doing a Guinness Book of World Records. He's trying to set the record for most consecutive episodes of Little House on the Prairie. I'm watching the weekend blast of that. But what's up, Mark? Yeah, I'm standing
Not too much, Joe.
Yeah,
It's been a good week. It's been a good week. Now, getting closer to the NFL regular season.
Yep. Yes, we are. That's why I named it the preseason party, because it's about to get rolling. Once we start after next week, we get the Tennessee Titans coming up Friday, tomorrow night, 8:15. But before we get into that, we're going to get into a little bit of Pat's preview and kind of go into Catone's comments later on in the show. And then hit you up with some Yankees Red Sox, a little update. So we're going to use this episode as an update episode to kind of get you guys back involved into what's coming up for the Pat season, especially Corso and Catone coming to you with Pat's Nation. So stay tuned for that. But you want to get into Pat's preview, Mark? And let's
go. I'm ready. I'm waiting. Let's go.
Here we go. So, like I said, Mark, Patriots coming off an unusual game. What do you say? An unusual game last week, but a win nonetheless.
A win. Well, it was a preseason game, right? So but it was a little unusual, especially the way it ended. Joe, was very unusual, which we'll get into.
So one of the things I keep hearing, keep seeing at some of the networks and especially NFL.com and Patriots, .com and their official site, and saying, key takeaways, 10 types of takeaways. What are we talking about? We're talking about takeaways. What does that matter?
So I think when they're talking about takeaways, Joe, they're talking about not takeaways as in turnovers or interceptions or fumbles, but takeaways. So in other words, what can we take from that game to say, hey, this is what we expect they're going to possibly look like on offense, and this is what they possibly will look like on defense based on what we witnessed and what we observed and what the observations we can make from what we saw last week against Green Bay.
Okay, so with those types of takeaways, now, like I said, those are some of the flagship stations saying stuff like that.
Yeah.
And, I don't pay attention to that shit. So I always want to know what are your takeaways? What do you feel were some of the worthy moments of that game?
So we'll start on offense because we always like to start with offense, right?
Yeah.
So we'll start with offense and we'll look at, the quarterback play, which we always look at quarterback play. But so Mac Jones, I think it was a little. I think he had moments, right? He had moments. Yeah. He made some plays. There was a play, a couple of plays where he did an RPO down in the red zone on the Green Bay side of the field. And what an RPO is the quarterback fakes like he's going to hand the ball off, and he either can hand it off or he can pull it out based on what he read from the defense and actually throw the ball. So it's basically a run pass option. And they call it an RPO. And that's something that the Patriots don't typically do. They did it when Cam Newton was here. But after he left for the last 2 years, Patriots, that's not part of their offense is an RPO. And Billy O'Brien brought that back. He ran the RPO pretty well, got a completion off of the RPO, seemed to have a real good connection with Kendrick Bourne, who everybody keeps saying is having a great training camp. And he looked it. He's bigger. He looks like he totally understands what's expected of him. on the offensive side of the ball. So there was a chemistry there between him and Jones. Jones hit him, I think, 3 times, and a couple of them were down the field passes. That's going to be important because Jones had a chemistry with Jacoby Myers, who we all know left. He's with the Raiders now. So the question during the offseason was, well, who's he going to have that chemistry with, right? And it appears it's going to be Bourne. So that was a positive that I would take out of Mac Jones, the fact that he is creating that chemistry with Bourne. However, it wasn't all perfect for Jones by no means. He had a couple of passes where he had Hunter Henry, tight end, open in the flat, misses him, overthrows him. It was just a typical one of those. What the heck was he doing, Joe? Right? Where was he going? Like, how did he miss him? Right? And Mac Jones has those moments, right? Like, what do you do? Like, how did you miss him? Right?
Yeah.
And then there was a play down the field where Devontae Parker split the seam. He seemed to be open, and Jones threw the ball down the field. Parker didn't come up with it. Everyone's saying, oh, Parker's going to run under that ball. But you're the quarterback. You know your receivers. You know that what his ability is to run under a ball and his speed. Parker's strength is going up and fighting for a ball. Put it up there and let him go fight for it. He overthrew him, and it was a potential big play. So in regards to Mac Jones, I think it was probably a 50-50 night. He looked better than last year. Don't get me wrong. I'll give him credit. Yeah. But those mistakes were still there, Joe.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And so as far as Jones's night, and he only played the first quarter, I think he showed some glimpses. I think he looked, and I know Chris will scream and yell at me because Chris was screaming through the whole game. This guy's a bum. He stinks. And I get all that. But listen, compared to last season, there were glimpses and some sparks there last week where you say, hey, you know what? The kid's making some progress. Maybe he can give us something more than what we saw last year. And I think he will. Whether that's enough to get you into the playoffs, that's a whole nother discussion, which we'll talk about in preseason preview, right?
Well, I think it's, for the fans, for people who are just rolling out of bed, the messy bedhead and going, it's time for football season. The people don't watch preseason stuff. Like, what do I have to look forward to see these Patriots? Like, you don't have your yesteryears, you don't have your Brady's and all these guys who that style, that grouping of Patriot fans who we probably lost a few, but I know the diehard ones. But I'm talking about the people who want to get back in and want to join the excitement again. They need to start looking for people to kind of watch after.
Yeah, we definitely lost some of that, Joe. But so on a brighter side, of course, I know last week was you had to bring the Samuel L. Jackson, Zeke, right? You had to bring him in last week. So Ezekiel Elliott did not play last week, even though we pumped him up. We were hoping we were going to see him. We didn't see him, but I think we may see a little bit of him this week, Joe. And he's somebody I think that could generate some excitement. Because he looks like he's in great shape. Looks like he's lost a ton of weight from when he was with last season with Dallas. I think Elliott's going to surprise people, and I think he's going to have a good year. So that's something to look forward to. And they got a couple of young receivers, Joe. They got this kid, Demario Douglas, who really looks like he can be a Troy Brown, Julian Edelman type of guy. He's fast. He's good in the slot. He's a rookie. I think he shows a lot of promise. He's somebody that I look forward to seeing more of. And we got another rookie receiver, 6th-round pick, who caught a 42-yard touchdown pass last week in the slot. Keyshawn Butte, who I also am a little excited to see him. He showed a burst and speed that we don't typically see on the Patriots. Right. So those are two guys that I do look forward to seeing and are excited to see as we move forward, Joe. The offensive line was a kind of a disaster again. It was so much of a disaster that they don't even know if Mac Jones is going to play this week because they don't want to get him injured until everybody can get healthy. So you might see the backup quarterbacks this week.
I was just going to ask you that question. Does that, you were just talking about Ezekiel Elliott and the potential that he might not play. Does that, I mean, those are the guys you need the last game, at least the last game of preseason, no?
Yeah, and typically, Joe, the last game of preseason, right? They'll play the starters for a very small period of time, typically, and I don't even know if you're going to see that this week. And then they play most of the guys they're trying to get a second, third, fourth look out of because they're trying to decide their final roster cuts because a cut down day is Tuesday, the 29th. So you're putting guys out there. They're on the fringe. Maybe we're going to keep them. Maybe we're not going to keep them. Those are the guys you're going to see a lot of this week in the game to see if they spark or do something or jump off the page and they say, oh, yeah, you know what? Maybe we are going to keep this guy. So you're going to see a lot of those guys this week. But just quickly, defensively, Joe, last week, it was a little discouraging, I felt, because you saw a lot of the same things you saw last year. And one of the things, Chris screamed about last year was the middle of the field, right? Yeah. Defensively, where your middle linebacker is, your safeties, like that part of the field, your linebackers really have to patrol that part of the field. And that's always been a weakness of ours. And again, it was a weakness last week. There were some plays that went over the middle. One of them was one side from one side to the other. It was a slant across the field. Got the Green Bay catches a touchdown pass. They ran the ball 4 and 5 yards at a time. And it didn't seem like the center of our defense, Joe, could stop the run. And that was similar to last year. Right? Our cornerbacks had some moments.
Well, speaking of cornerbacks, you mentioned Chris, and now we got to talk about Isaiah Bolden, who gets a head injury, and I actually just read that he's feeling better from Monday. We heard he was feeling better, so that's great news. But how, from Chris's perspective, he was one of those guys, right, on your lists.
Yeah, Chris liked him. Chris thought he could do something.
Right? Yeah. So now,
so what happened to him? The poor kid in the fourth quarter, he runs into, seems like his own player trying to make a tackle, collapses to the field, was motionless for a few minutes, and I think everybody got really, uptight and nervous and scared. Rightfully so, especially after what we saw last year with Devon Hamlin with Buffalo, and it didn't seem like he was moving much. I think he might have even passed out for a few seconds because I think it was a head injury. And the coaches talked, and I think they got confirmation that the league was okay with it. The players were distraught, and they should be. They canceled the rest of that game, Joe. 9 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, preseason game. They're like, it's a preseason game. It's meaningless. Out of respect and concern for Bolden, they canceled the rest of the game. But yeah, Bolden is somebody.
Question for you.
Yeah,
is this something that we're going to see in the future? You think? Do you hope that we're going to see when the Patriots are up and ahead, that they're just going to stop the game potentially? Is that's something we might be able to see?
Joe, we may need that, Joe, to get a few wins. That's for damn sure. Because I don't know if we're going to finish games. That's not a bad idea, Joe. We're going to have to bring that up. That's a good idea.
Need to win our predictions at the end of the season. What I have 12 wins.
Hey, you were out of control, Joe. 12 wins, for Christ's sakes. You're dreaming. But just real quick to finish the defense. So the corners, Bolden, as you said, showed some promise. I think he was going to probably make the roster as a rookie, a late draft rookie, late round rookie. But he'll probably end up on injury reserve, but the corners struggled a little bit. I think I think some of their reads and what they saw in front of them, they struggled a bit. The rookie Christian Gonzalez, who Chris and I both have high hopes for, he showed in spurts, but he also struggled a little bit on some routes, and on some coverages. He's a rookie, right? He's gonna have some good looks and bad looks, but we're expecting a lot of him. And if the Patriots are going to reach your 12-win total, he's going to have to really play well. And he hasn't played up to where Chris and I thought he would. He seems he doesn't play in the NFL. You're going to play, so he's tall, but he's skinny. You're going to play like almost like a aggressive physical style, and he's not showing the physicality. He's a hell of an athlete. He can run all over the field. He can break, but in the NFL, you got to show that physicality to play the corner position, and he hasn't really shown it yet. So that's what we're waiting to see, Chris and I. Can he show that physicality?
Yeah. Well, some of those things I appreciate, because I'm asking you as the expert from our fans. We had some write-ins. Those were some of the questions that I posed to you. Some of the questions that we've had, especially one of our fans. I'm actually wearing the shirt. Good time fan, friend of ours, friend of the show. This is the IPA, hazy IPA from my friends down at St. John Breweries. They brew this hazy IPA.
Where's that, Joe? St. John Brewery.
St. John, down in St. John in the islands.
Oh, wow, in the islands. I'm sorry, I didn't realize that.
He's a big fan of the show, and he actually watches it all the time. And those guys down there, they make some great beer. You can actually try to find it in some of the local liquor stores around here. But this one, I love this. This is a hazy IPA. It's actually really good beer. So it's they're out there in the sun, just making beer.
We're doing something wrong, Joe. We're doing something wrong.
Yeah, seriously, right. You know
like they're hanging out in the sun, making beer. I mean, come on, right?
So that's the thing. They tune into Course Wins Gatone to find out what the hell's going on. What do we have to watch for the Patriots? And those are one of the questions. A couple of the questions from them. What do they have to look forward to? So Mark answers it, ladies and gentlemen. What's to look forward to for the upcoming season? And the Patriots will be playing tomorrow night, as I said, with Tennessee Titans. Yeah. Hopefully they come back for the win, at least like a legitimate win, or hopefully the rest can just stop the game when they're ahead, and then we could see that the rest of the season. But before we get into that season, we are going to leave you guys with a little Catone's comments coming up next. So stay tuned for that. And this segment was sponsored by the Special Sauce Podcast. What's your special sauce? SpecialSaucePodcast.com. Visit to check out what your special sauce is. And when we come back, Catone's comments is next.
It's the Special Sauce Podcast. You liking the sauce? The sauce is good, man. This is start out finance. Train them, trust them, and let them lead. With your host, Marcus Aurelius. Tune in to Special Sauce Podcast, wherever you podcast. What's your special sauce? Time for Catone's Comments!
So I figured today, since this is kind of like a get us back into and ready for the NFL, for the real Patriot NFL season, regular season, right? Might as well stick with football. So this week, actually it was yesterday. So Pete Carroll, who used to coach here, was fired. He followed Bill Parcells as coach. So he's been coach of the San Francisco. He was a defensive backs coach with San Francisco before he came to us as a head coach. He's now head coach of Seattle, right? Seahawks. They won a Super Bowl. We beat them in the Super Bowl, right? So he was interviewed on a podcast yesterday, and he's talking about his experience in New England. And he's talking about how he was, he can't coming here. He was coming from a first-class organization with San Francisco. The Bartolos were running San Francisco at the time. Everything was first class. Everything was down to the minute. Private jets and dinners, and everything was like organized and done the right way. It was a first-class organization. He gets here, and they're running off-season. They're doing off-season conditioning, off-season drills, and guys are coming to the stadium for that. It's like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and he's going through, the menu and what they should be giving the guys for lunch and dinner and at night for snacks, whatever, right? And so he runs through it with Mr. Kraft, and he says, Mr. Kraft looked at him and said, we're not giving them this. Like, no. We give them bologna sandwiches and some chips and a drink. And so Pete Carroll said he just looked at him and was like, oh, okay, Mr. Kraft. I mean, he's the owner, right? So Pete Carroll said at that point he realized, wow, this wasn't what I expected. Like he was coming from an organization that did things differently. So we've been talking, Chris and I, for the last 6 months about, maybe longer than a year, about, is it that Kraft is too cheap and doesn't want to play players? or is it Bill Belichick? And we've been having that debate for months. Well, listen, yesterday's comments by Pete Carroll, I think, solidifies the fact. It's Kraft. Spend money, Bob. You're putting up huge video boards. That's great, but spend money. It would have cost him $13 million to get DeAndre Hopkins 3 weeks ago, a number one wide receiver. Everyone said, Bill doesn't want to pay. Bullshit. It's not Bill. Bob Kraft controls the checkbook. If he said, Bill, we're signing him, he's writing the check. Bill saying, okay, great, Bob. We'll welcome him in. What? He's not writing those checks. All these contracts that are incentive laden, all these guys that come in now are on these incentive contracts, and you can earn this amount of money if you stand on your head, you dance, you spin, you strip, you do all kind of crazy things. Oh, by the way, if you do all of that, you'll get $6 million, but otherwise the contract's worth $2 million. If you think that Belichick is putting all of those clauses and all of those things into a contract, you're crazy. You're crazy. He might be evaluating talent, but it's Kraft. Kraft has a bottom line, and that's where he wants to stay. He doesn't want to go above that number, whatever that number may be that he has. So when everyone says, well, why aren't they bringing in players like everybody else in the league? Because Kraft is cheap. He's cheap. And my perfect example is a bologna sandwich. I'll leave it at that, Joe. A bologna sandwich, really? For professional adult athletes? Are you kidding me?
Seriously. I know, I got to tell you that, hearing that, it's like, I was like, what? That's crazy. I had to mute my mic going, what? I had to Google it going, oh my God, that's real. Like these guys are professional athletes. Like they have to they have to have the energy, the appropriate energy to play. No wonder why we're losing games. You know what I mean?
Don't get me wrong. This is going back now several years, right? But it just shows what his business mindset was way back before they even started winning the Super Bowls, Joe. That was his mindset. Now, he got lucky. He got Belichick as the coach. They got Brady. So he was able to keep that mindset because you had two guys, head coach and quarterback, who could cover for you, and you could keep yourself paying guys and running the organization at a certain level without spending a ton of money. Yeah. But that's not the case anymore, Joe. No. Now you got to spend money.
Like, that's why I kept bringing it up the last couple of shows. I was like, hey, let's not fail to mention they brought in Zeke. They paid Judon for a year, but it's like, you know what? And here, this is a great segue to the next segment, but we'll get into that in just a second. But like, as far as spending money, Yankees spend a little bit of money on Aaron Judge. Does quite a few, late theatrics that brings them out of a losing streak. Now, same thing with the Patriots. Like, give them some money. You'll see guys play for you, especially some of the ones who have that star title, asterisk next to their name. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Absolutely.
They'll make the numbers. They'll put it up there, but they want to know they're backed. Oh, man, good stuff, Mark. Good stuff. I tell you what, you're right. Kraft, just start spending some money. I don't know.
Go spend money. I mean, come on. And this is something Chris and I have always debated, but we agree on that piece. But all these other people, they all blame Belichick. It's not Belichick. Not when it comes to that, Joe.
Well, see, like you said, a lot of the people last couple of seasons before the last few, Brady and such, they're coming to get a ring. So they're taking a pay cut. He even took a pay cut. You know what I mean?
He did.
Because he understood how, like, the dynamic he himself brought. You know what I mean? But, like, it's one of those things where it's like, you gotta put some money somewhere. Even if it's okay, if it's not on the field, it's still, in film, when we, working in Hollywood, they always say, like, where the money goes, it always goes onto the screen. So whatever you're spending as a producer, whatever, you put it on the screen. For him, he's putting that out in the field. It's like that goes all the way back to bologna sandwiches. So what do you think? Did they change that? You think they changed?
Oh, listen, I definitely think they changed it. And I'm going to be honest with you. Is that 100% accurate, that story that Pete Carroll told? I don't know, Joe. But Jesus Christ, I don't see how he put that out there if it wasn't the truth. I mean, because you're going to make where's the guy going to make that up from? I'm sure he's not making it up.
That's a standout story that doesn't get made up. You know what I mean?
Right? No, of course not.
Good stuff. Good stuff. That's Catone's comments, ladies and gentlemen. And when we get back, we're going to get into a little bit of Yankees, Red Sox, a little baseball, just to tell you what's been going on there. And then we're going to call it for this show is a little bit of an update for this weekend coming into the next preseason game. The Patriots looking forward to that. So when we come back, that's that.
It's that time again for a timeout for a message from one of our sponsors. No one ever thinks they will be in the need of a criminal or traffic lawyer, but things happen. Corso Law Group is Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. Their 20-plus years experience and attention to detail has helped thousands of people all across this great country who found themselves in a situation in Arizona. So whether it's a traffic ticket or if you need reduced DUI or more serious issues, call or go online to CorsoLawGroup.com and talk with these expert attorneys who I know will help you. Corso Law Group.
And Joe and Catone is back. A little bit of something. So
there we go.
So
that's gonna be our new thing, Joe. Bologna sandwiches.
Bologna sandwiches.
That's gonna be our new thing.
I'm gonna have to create some sort of baloney graphic at the bottom here. Baloney time,
right?
Baloney time. But Mark, baseball season. Do we even give a shit? I don't even know. I've been watching.
Listen, it's football season, Joe.
I know.
I don't care what anybody says. Oh, it's a baseball town. Bullshit. It's a football town. Everybody wants to talk about the Patriots, right?
But baseball season's like late September, October.
It is. It is baseball season though, and it is getting interesting, right? So the Yankees.
Whoa, wait, let's
Red Sox.
I gotta do my wash, baby. Come on.
Go.
We go.
So, Joe, the Red Sox went into Yankee Stadium. They swept them.
Yeah.
Right? They sweep them.
Yep.
They sweep the Yanks. And the Yankees just look abysmal in those 3 games. They couldn't even hit. I mean, it was pathetic how bad they looked. They lost. Then they lose the following game to the Nationals. They lose 9 straight games, Joe. 9 straight games. Worst losing streak since 1982. Okay. But yeah,
I remember.
Aaron Boone hasn't been fired yet. I don't know how he's still not on the bench. I mean, okay, what are you going to let them play out the string? I understand that, but Jesus Christ, Joe, it's right. As you said, it's the product you're putting on the field. It's embarrassing, right? That's embarrassing. If you, as the New York Yankees,
yeah. And Cashman is quoted with saying, "Yanks will evaluate the season because this season was a disaster," and he's right.
So basically, he's telling Boone, when we evaluate the season, you're going to have to go, right? What does that mean, Joe? If you're the manager, it's like it's a disaster. We're going to evaluate it. Cashman's not going to fire himself.
Yeah, right. You know,
and that also tells me if Cashman's saying he's going to evaluate it, that tells me the owner's already told him, you're all set. I'm keeping you. But the manager's going to have to go. Somebody's going to go, right? And you need all new coaches. So they lose 9 in a row to the Red Sox.
Mm-hmm.
And you just alluded to this a couple of minutes ago, Joe. How do they get out of the losing streak? Aaron Judge has to hit 3 home runs. Now, everyone says, Aaron Judge wasn't worth paying all that money. Listen, I know he got hurt in the middle of the season, but he's like 5th in the league in home runs, and he missed half the season. If he was healthy all year, he'd have the home run lead again. Like, he's worth the money. He's just going to stay healthy. He hit 3 home runs, and then the next game he hit another home run. So he had 4 home runs in 2 games. You know, he's starting to get into his groove again. I mean, it's too late, though. The rest of the lineup's a disaster. And we're not even going to get into the rest of the lineup. We'll do that as we get towards the end of the season and talk about, before we get into the offseason, what the Yankees really need to do and what they need to, bring up from the minor leagues. But the Red Sox, Joe, the Red Sox seem to tease you because they get within a couple of games of the wild card, and then they lose 2-3 games in a row. And then they get within a couple of games again, and then they lose 2-3 games in a row. So it's interesting. I don't think the Red Sox are going to make the playoffs. They're not. They're not going to make the wild card. But they're keeping themselves in it long enough to keep some interest. And the general Bloom loves it, the general manager, because You didn't make any moves at the trade deadline. You didn't spend any money, but you're still staying competitive enough to the end. People the place is sold out every day. He loves it because it's his model.
That's the key. And of course today they come away with a debacle, 17-1 win over Houston, which Houston's one of those teams that is that team in that that playoff time they would be coming up against, to move forward anyways. You know what I mean? So Yankees too, if that were the case. But like you said about we talking about Judge, that's why you pay him. Because you either pay him to get people in the stands, in the seats, paying for those hot dogs, so you can, continue getting people in that make a difference. And whether they're winning the whole season or not, people are going to see him hit those 3 home runs. So that's Kraft's going to do the same thing to put money on the field. And same thing.
See, people just keep showing up though. So Kraft doesn't have to do that yet, Joe. Yeah. It's like Chris always says this: until people stop going to the games, then Kraft will spend some money because he's not about losing money with seats and stuff. Just one last thing, Joe, because I know we're running against the clock here. So with the Red Sox, so Chris and I talked a few weeks ago about Bloom and Cora. And who should go? And we had the call that we love from Texas, Barbara from Texas, right? Barbara from Texas. She said she wants Cora to stay. The other night, Cora in his post-game press conference has a shirt on, T-shirt. It says underdog on it. Like it's almost like because Bloom kind of referred to them as that when he went through the stats during the trade deadline. So it was almost like Cora was busting his balls by wearing the T-shirt, right? Cora's not going to be back. I think it's either going to be by his own admission. I think they'll work out some deal where he just walks away. They won't fire him. But he was definitely busting Bloom's balls. You know what I mean? With the T-shirt.
Well, it's one of those things. That's where I feel Barbara was right. It's like that's the type of guy you want. That's a guy you want as your manager.
Absolutely.
Because they're both of those teams now. They're scrappers, unfortunately, but they, the pinstripes don't matter anymore. The Red Sox don't matter. Those Sox don't matter unless you're winning. And that's the bottom line for everybody. You got to win. You got to make the game. That's it.
That's it. The Red Sox did bring up, not Red Sox, the Yankees did bring up a couple of young guys this week, Peraza and Pereira, who are supposed to be like the next wave.
Yeah.
Let's see what that means, Joe. I don't even know what it means at this point.
That was the whole deal with Cashman, that was what the idea is for them. Again, to go back to that model, right?
We'll see.
We'll see. Hopefully your Yanks, your Red Sox pull something through. Because I'm one of those people, I enjoy those old rivalries. That's why we did this Yankees Red Sox. I love that shit. Like Celtics, Lakers, Yankees, Red Sox, those old school rivalries. I want to see them again. I want to see them tear it apart. Can't have the Red Sox going at the Yankees and sweeping them. We want to see a head-to-head 50-50 sort of
thing.
Or
if you're going to see it, then you need to have a fist fight on the field, right? Something old school. Something old school, Joe, right?
At very least. So that's good stuff, though. What some things to look forward to, more so for the Patriots, I think, than the Red Sox. But for New England fans out there, look for Corso and Catone. That's what you need to look for next time. Just come and watch us. So good stuff, Mark. And
maybe our partner will be back next week, Joe. I don't know.
Maybe if
he'll show up.
Little House on the Prairie rerun extravaganza. I don't know if that's what
what was he watching? Was it Falcon's Crest? What the hell was he watching? One of those crazy shows, right? I don't know.
Something 70s that you've never heard of. Nobody's ever heard of, unless you're over the age of 55. So, well, ladies and gentlemen, that's good stuff. That's been Corso and Catone, or Joe and Catone, as we like to say here at home.
Yeah.
But we will be back next week. Hopefully, Chris will be back next week. But we will get it started, especially back it up with some Titans, Patriots. See what happens after that game. And, whatever the potential after the Red Sox 17-1 win, maybe they have a chance. Who knows?
Maybe.
But some of our fans love to see that. So I am Joe Guarnieri. This is Mark Catone. This has been Corso and Catone. We'll see you next week.
Find Corso and Catone on iHeartRadio, iTunes, or wherever you podcast. And subscribe to the YouTube channel, Corso and Catone, and catch the chaos at 7 p.m. on Saturday.